You've worked extensively with Xavier Rhodes in the past, and he indicated you're a big reason why he wanted to come here. First off, what can you tell us about Xavier as a player? What are the Colts getting? And do you feel he kind of has a bit of a chip on his shoulder coming to Indy, and can he take advantage of that?
Um, yeah. I was with Zave for 4 years, so I think he's going on 8 now. Um, what you're getting in Xavier is an ultra competitive player. He's very prideful, like all our guys, but this guy carries himself a little bit different. Um, I do think he has a little bit of chip on his shoulder. I guess you could ask him about that. I don't, I'm not too worried about that. I'm just worried about serving him as best as I can as his coach, and hopefully that he gets playing the way he wants to play, that we need him to play.
Joel Erickson.
I know you were really happy with the way Marvell progressed as a rookie and what he was bringing to you guys. Him opting out, just where does that leave you guys in terms of depth at the cornerback position?
Yeah, I mean, we feel good about the depth right now. Obviously, Marvell was going to be a part of different packages and competing for a starting job as the corner and the dime, and he wore a lot of different hats, and he really matured last year as a rookie and played 250 some odd snaps. Other guys know they just got to step up, and this one happened early where everyone sees that, but they understand that that can happen on a Friday. You got a guy that's playing in the rotation, and you might not be able to play. So, how we kind of coach our guys is everybody has to be ready to play. Everyone typically, besides a couple guys, have to wear multiple hats for depth, and that's going to be super important, especially this year with all the unknown going on. I support Marvell. I talked to him, and obviously I told him, I said, I wanted you here and I'm down about it because I had, super high hopes for him this year, but support the decision and he'll pick back up next year.
Zach Kiefer.
Coach, when you looked at what happened in December last year with your unit, just looking at the secondary as a whole, what were the things you picked up on that led to the struggles you guys had? And what are the things you need to focus on? Obviously, Kenny Moore wasn't out there, and he's a big piece. But what are the things you guys need to do differently this year to avoid that kind of finish?
For sure, number one thing would be communication. So, when we had some new guys in there playing, the communication, everyone's speaking Spanish for 6 weeks, and then all of a sudden a couple guys are speaking French. And what I mean by that is everyone has to be on the same page in the back end, not just the corner, nickel, and the safeties, but the linebackers as well. So everyone has to be on the same page. Everyone has to know what each guy's doing within that call, and then you can be a cohesive unit. When you talk about pass defense, like everybody has to do their job. You can't have one guy that's, not doing the right thing or freelancing, so to speak, or making the incorrect decision, because that affects, it's like a trickle-down effect, that affects everybody. So I think the main thing that as a staff that we talked about is to make sure the communication is, we took out some communication. I think I've improved as a coach. I think we all have improved as far as, okay, like what do we need him to say? What do we want him to say? And then they all have to know those calls and be able to function. So from me, I kind of take it personally because my guys weren't on the same page at the end there last year. And that's not on them, it's on me. If they knew what to say, they would say it. So,
one thing, if you don't mind me following up, you played a lot of young guys. I don't think any unit played the young players that you guys had the last 2 years. That's more on your plate as well. Do you feel like that's something that could pay off down the line? That's what Eberflus kind of mentioned. You had Tell and Rock and all those young guys playing. Is that just sort of part of it? These guys taking their lump?
Yeah, I mean, experience is good. They've now they're, you could say, a little more battle tested. They've seen, you can practice it and walk through it and show it on tape, but until they actually make the mistake full speed in a game, I think that's the best learning for those guys. So you just kind of understand with some younger guys that you're playing, they haven't seen a lot of things that some vets or 5 years, 8-year vet have seen. And it might catch them off guard and they might make a mistake. So I do feel like those guys that played last year that were young, obviously Marvell opting out now, but Rock and even Kenny's, young too, Malik and those Kari, you just said it. We played a lot of young guys. Those guys 2 3 years on the job, those start to gel a little better. And now they're, I think some things that they'll see this year that they're not completely prepped for, they've already seen it, and they'll go to that memory bank and be like, okay, this is what I do, or this is how I play that. So anytime you gain experience, you should gain a little bit of wisdom too. So, and by that, I mean, not making the same mistake twice.
Phil B.
Hey, Coach, thank you for your time. I'm assuming you studied tape of Xavier the last couple of years, and I'm wondering your thoughts on what you saw from his play. And then secondly, he spoke yesterday of shifting to more zone schemes and reading the quarterback as opposed to playing straight up man and reading the receiver. Do you talk about what that adjustment calls for, how difficult that is?
Yeah, what I saw on tape, in my mind, what I knew of Zave was 14, 15, 16, 17. And I think 16 and 17 went to the Pro Bowl. And those 2 years, he was matching the best receiver every game. So and he was, in 17, we were just talking about it. He shut out Julio, he shut out Antonio Brown, he shut out Mike Thomas. And when I say shut out, that their best player isn't getting 10 for 110. So I think Antonio Brown had like 4 for 38, and one of them wasn't even on him. But when you're talking about that type of caliber player going to match their best receiver week in and week out, that's tough duty, and he rises to that challenge. I think a little bit just when I watched when he became available, just a little bit of inconsistency with his technique and where his eyes were and what they were asking him to do. I know he was coached really well there because I came from there, obviously, and he was around a really good unit. But that defense, to your point, is a little more man conscious. But that defense has a lot of rules in it too. I think coming to our scheme, we try to eliminate some of those rules for him so he can play fast and he knows exactly, it's not a decision that they can make on the field, so to speak. We kind of tell them, hey, this is what we're doing, this is how we're going to play it, and then go from there. So I think he'll enjoy that part. Schematically wise, Minnesota plays as much zone as we do. So he's going to be asked to do some of the same things that he's been doing there. I do think that it's going to be a little bit simplified for him.
Thank you, Coach.
Kevin Bowen.
Hey, Jonathan, thanks for the time. In talking to Xavier maybe back in March when he signed, he mentioned that moment of truth was where he felt like he had some breakdowns last year. It felt like he was in decent position, and then when it was kind of the opportunity to make a play on the ball, that's when he struggled a bit. Did you see that as well when you look back at last year's film?
Yeah, a little bit. Yes, but again, you're playing that type of caliber receiver and those type of, really top end, the top 10 quarterbacks that you're playing against, your moment of truth, so to speak, that margin for error is very small. So, he's blanking into the guy and Drew Brees throws it high and outside and Michael Thomas makes an unbelievable catch and he doesn't get it out. And you're like, well, he's 0 for 1, but man, that was really good coverage. So I think that just arming him with the tools, within our scheme to say, okay, well, here's what we need to take away, and here's how you can make a couple more plays. But the tape wasn't bad. That's why I was excited to get him. Just like I said, just a little bit of inconsistency.
And then a quick follow-up. When you look at your guys in base defense, do you think it's Rock or Xavier opposite Kenny?
I don't know. I think that'll play it on the field in the next month. And we always, per week, see what fits our defense the best and see the matchups that are predicated on the offense and what we want to play. and try to put guys in the best spots that they have chance to succeed. So I think what you guys will see at practice and even in games, that's not they're not going to be penciled in.
Ken Sterling?
Hey, Coach. In what ways have you had to adjust what you're doing in order to prepare for this season as opposed to other seasons? And by the time you get to the opener, do you expect to have everybody up to speed and ready?
Yeah, by the time we get to the opener, we should be up to speed and ready. I think it presents a little bit of a challenge with the physicality part of it because you're not playing preseason games. You know, if you took OTAs, and that's kind of where we're at right now as we start to ramp up, you're a little behind there. But as far as the communication and the alignment, assignment, key technique, I think we'll be pretty close to, you know, where we should be going into week one. You know, we've put a huge emphasis on the physicality of block destruction and tackling. We're going to have to drill that probably more than we normally have just because they haven't done it. So tackling is a skill. So if you ask me to go tackle somebody and the first time you ask me to do it is week one, well, you know, the success of that might be a little down. So we just got to be smart as a coaching staff to put our guys in positions that they're going to have more so than the last couple of years of, you know, how to tackle a guy when he comes full speed ripping through there off the shelf. But we got a good plan for that.
Do the last question, George Bremer.
Hey, Coach, you guys signed Tavon Wilson earlier today. It looks like on paper he's an experienced guy coming off a really good season. I was just wondering how much you've seen of him and maybe what you see for his role with this defense.
Yeah, super excited about him. You know, he's a good player on tape. Alan Williams has had experience with him, so it's probably a better question for Alan. But, you know, just super excited for, you know, some experience, some leadership back there. He's a great dude. You know, anyone that we bring in the building, our personnel guys that are making those calls with the head coach and the personnel side, like they're not bringing in bad guys. So I'm always excited when we get new people in that have some experience because they're fun to work with and they help the other guys, which is a huge thing.